I was playing, and everything was great. And then this guy who looked like Paul McCartney, this guy Mike Kennedy looked like Paul McCartney. This guy comes up to me and goes, "Hey man, I got a record deal. I'm going to London. You look like Brian Jones and you play a telly bass, and I like that. You look British. Do you want to go?" So it was our first gig, and they're like, "We got this gig at this place called the Golden Lion," and I got a bunch of friends. The manager guy, he was like an old guy. He was one of the woo on the Stones. This guy Emilio Scala. Yes, he was that close. He was in Olympic Studios all the time, and he was like one of those guys. And he said, "Yeah, I've got some notables coming out to see you tonight." And we're like, "Oh, okay." So I get on stage, and I'm in London. It's my first gig, and I look out, and there's Mitch Mitchell from the Jimi Hendrix Experience. There's two guys from Bad Company. There's Jimmy Page. There's Robert Plant. I'm like playing in front of all these people, and I'm thinking, this is it. I'm going to be so rich now. And 8 months later, contractual disputes and other shit, I'm on a plane with a bass. One thing to duplicate a song, but it's another thing to feel the song and to deliver the song. I mean, you can duplicate it and just send it, and that's what a lot of bands are doing, a lot of cover bands, but they don't have the authenticity. The authenticity is, I did it when it first came out, and this was part of my life, and I wore bell bottoms when this came in. So this is part of my skin, this is part of my clothes. If you're a kid, you can't have that because you weren't around. Your parents were. Your parents might have, if they'd have kept playing, they would have been that good.
Well, you know, when we got together to do this gig, it was kind of like one of those things where we started playing, we're like, you know what, let's just try to do something that's really cool. Let's try to capture what was lost, what we fell in love with music about in the first place. Let's just kind of play what we want to. You know, and it's kind of done good for us because we're just trying to play from the heart and have like a vibe, like get that, you know, that cosmic energy kind of thing, you know.
You're still playing those songs now. And not the songs that are on now. The music's completely different. How has it changed in your mind?
Music hasn't changed for me because I'm in a time warp, both personally and professionally. It's like we're doing the same shit now that I was doing in 1969. It's just psychedelic stuff like Steppenwolf, Crosby, Stills and Nash.
You know, this band has really helped keep me going. It really has, because you know, when I first started, like our generation of listening to music, music was everything. We had records. We grew up listening to albums. All of our friends got together. Like we'd hang out and party and listen to music. You know, before MTV, and then even when MTV started, when they were actually showing music videos, it was like music, like, you know, there was still some mystery to it, you know, and all that's kind of just, it's been lost, and we're just trying to recapture that. So, you know, and music gets you high, so it's like we're trying to get high off the music, you know.
But they come out and see us and go, wow, these old men are playing it just like the record. It's not even just like the record, it feels like it though. You know, it feels like the real deal.
Is that why the people are coming out?
That's why the people are coming out. Certainly because we're really good-looking young guys.
I remember people laughing at me when I was in high school, and I was like, look, I don't, you know, it's not important for me. I mean, of course, everybody has these dreams, you know, when you're a kid playing with albums or tapes. Now you know how old I am. You know, having a dream of being on a big stage and playing in front of a large audience of people. Everybody has those dreams, but like I was trying to have a little bit more realistic approach to it. You know, just be grateful that if I can make a living playing.
How long have I been doing this? Do I really want to say? 25 years, maybe, we've been doing this, you know, in various incarnations. You reach a point where you sort of you accept the fact that you're not a millionaire, and chances are you're not going to be a millionaire, you know? And that's what we were talking about before. It's like when Tommy talks about the young people that he works with, it's like, I'll point to them, it's like, you got to get into it for the music, basically, because it's like maybe 2% of 3% of the bands become like famous bands. Everybody else is doing everything they can to stay alive. You know what I mean? How much did we make last year? I made enough that I didn't have to work a day job. But, you know, I live in a one-room apartment, you know? You know what I mean?
Shack.
So, yeah, I live in a one-room. You know, so there's a certain amount of acceptance that comes along with that.
You just carve out your own little, you know, like again, I'm happy not to be doing something I don't want to do. It doesn't matter whether you're famous or not.
We haven't really been working on it, you know, sort of like, I think it was more of a chance for us to stretch the instruments out a little bit. I had this thing about, I wanted to get some black folks to do some Grateful Dead.
If I could go back in time, I'd tell myself to major in something other than music when I went to college. I had a great educational experience. I value it to the nth degree. I had support from my whole family. But, you know, it would have been nice to get a degree in something that you can actually make a reasonable salary. And I'm right next to Alan in terms of like what I make. You want to know what I make? Not much. I'm lucky if I can cover my rent, utilities, gas money, you know, get the car around, and maybe a little extra if I'm lucky, you know? But that was my choice. And I'm not gonna bitch about it, and I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, woe is me. I get to play with like some of the most incredible musicians walking the planet, you know, whether it's with this group or other people that I work with. You know, I get to pass on that knowledge to young people. You can't put a price on that. Now, you know, I went to graduate school. I have a master's in music ed. If I so choose to go into the school district and take that route and teach in a public school, in due time I will have, you know, because they bump your salary every couple of years, you know, I wouldn't have to be bitching about money. But right now, where I'm at, I need to express myself musically, so I deal with the financial repercussions that go with it.
There are perks too. I mean, sometimes you're in some shitty little town in Alabama, and, you know, but then sometimes, like he says, you're lying on the Tommy. Last time we were in the Virgin Islands, Tommy and I had our own condo on St. Croix, you know what I mean, for like 4 or 5 days.
Separate bathrooms.
Separate bathrooms at a time. Out the back door was the Caribbean, and I sat under my own individual palm tree. You know what I mean? So you do end up in situations like that. It's up and down, up and down.
And it's never going to be the same thing every gig. So, I mean, but you learned that a long time ago. I mean, that's why some people can't do it, because there's not really any consistency about, like, clubs or club owners or acoustics, you know. It's like every day is a new day. And, like,
there's a whole lot more of us that do what we do on this level, just sort of grinding it out of the road in the clubs and the bars, you know, playing weddings, playing anything you can just to sort of make a living, so you can put more time into play.
music. I grew up on 70s soul and R&B and funk music, so that's the stuff that I enjoy doing the most. And jazz funk, Roy Ayers, Donald Byrd, Ronnie Laws, Dexter Wansell. That's my favorite stuff.
Darnell, you play like at church. You play in funk bands. I think you play a jazz gig once in a while. Like, do you have a favorite gig?
Anywhere people are dancing. I would play a polka gig. If people are dancing, I'm going to love it. For real, it doesn't matter.
Scott, you are not from the area. You're like a southerner, but you like fit in so well in the Philly scene. Is there like, do you find there's a big difference between playing like in the Philly area and playing other parts of the country, Colorado, Texas?
Not really. I mean, you know, culturally and all those places there are obvious differences, but again, it goes right down to the core of what music really is. It's a universal energy that really binds us all, and so now I don't find it any different. I fit right in, and I was very fortunate to have met Guy, for example. That was kind of like a weird, 6 degrees of separation kind of introduction. That was fun.
Playing original music and playing cover music and getting paid. How do you balance it out?
You do it all. You know, whatever comes up. I mean, I got a schedule where I'm playing with Scott McClatchy, which is we're doing his songs, and I got a gig with my band Guy Campbell and the Contusions, it's all originals, and then I got a band with Slim Jim and Big Guy, which is all covers. So, and then I play with you, so therefore, you know, Kevin McQuiston and Underpaid Mercenaries, it just goes around, and you just sort of, drops you in your lap, and you take everything as it comes. Hey, you know, I even played bass in a Godspell play, so, you know, it's all out there for the taking.
Kirk, you're probably the best paid. I hate to say that. You're probably the best paid of all of those underpaid mercenaries. Do you feel like you're getting to the point where you are self-sustaining?
Not quite yet. Like Guy says, it depends on what comes up. It's a very wide range. You know, sometimes we go out to a bar in the hood and make $50, $60, and sometimes we play for a bar mitzvah and make $350 or $450 for a couple hours of playing. And so it's a really wide range. I kind of enjoy the diversity, the different styles, and it just makes you a stronger player, and also it's a way to move up. You know what I mean? The networking aspect of it is what makes it good.
It's funny when you mentioned a bar in the hood. I remember Kirk and I played a gig where a guy was pistol whipped right in the bar, you know, in front of everybody, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not hanging out with Kirk anymore playing these gigs. You remember that?
Yeah.
That was crazy. But Kirk, yeah, he will run the gamut. He'll play in the hood, and then you'll see him on TV, you know, playing with all of the, you know, the major stars.
As much fun as they are, you know. Like when I'm in the middle of some crazy song from the 80s, you know, I'm just dancing and bopping around, having a good time. I'm just lucky enough to be the one that gets to sing it up here, you know. But it's not quite the same as playing my own stuff, where it's, you know, I'm singing from the heart, you know. So. Waiting, up and down the boulevard in the shadows, searching in the night. I have a ton of fun doing covers. I mean, it's a great feeling to make people dance and smile and have a good time. And, you know, I mean, every once in a while I'm like, yeah, you know, I wish that they were doing this to one of my songs, but you know, I gotta be honest with you, nobody's gonna dance to one of my songs like they dance to Boogie Yogi Yogi, you know? Like, it's just not gonna happen right now.
It's too high for me.
I think people don't realize that every cover was an original at one time. You know, somebody wrote Don't Stop Believin' and had to play it in front of people that didn't know it. You know, so what is it that makes a song huge? I don't know yet. That's what I'm working on, so.
What time do I get up? I usually get up really early because I can't sleep. I'm usually up 6:30, 7 o'clock. And then I'm like plotting out things to do for the day to make sure that I'm booked 2 months ahead, or to throw this iron in the fire here and throw this iron in the fire here. Go on Facebook, see what the climate's like, see who I can pitch to come out during the week. I mean, it's like I basically stalk people on Facebook to get them to come out one by one. And like, this is for my happy hour coming up. My friend Chris from South Philly does these for me. He's laid off, and he's a psychologist, so his brain needs to work. So this is what he does. Yeah, so he does a really good job, man. He even has the dollar sign in it, which is pretty cool. He's got everything going. Never a cover charge, which is the agents really want this in there, never a cover charge. If I don't put that in there, I get yelled at.
I think part of the deal with people who perform well and can't fill seats is their inability to reconcile that they do have to just not be expectant that a bunch of people are going to be out there. You're really not an attraction until people buy tickets. The hardest thing to do is to go from family and friends coming to your shows, which is almost like them supplementing your life, to transferring over to having real fans. If you can generate the type of excitement that allows people out there looking for great music to come to your shows and buy those tickets, then you've started that ripple. Family and friends are a great way to start. But until you can reach out to other people and make that into a reality, then, well, you're going to have trouble until you make that transition.
Well, it's like you're running for president. It really is. Like, and I know people that are like, you know, on the original market that have made some success, and I've talked to them, and they're like, dude, it's like I wake up in the morning and I'm on the radio, and it's like constantly everywhere I go, I'm like, I'm running for president. It's like it's the only way you can, you know what I mean? You're constantly like promoting yourself because you're a salesman. You're always selling yourself constantly, you know. So
I found out that if you just mass message someone, it's not personal enough. If you get personal enough with the people who are supporting you and the people who are like your punters, if you're personal enough with them, then they're more easily manipulated to come out and see you. I'm not saying, but it's like it's a psychological thing, isn't it?
And still, the shrewdest thing you can say is when they ask you, you know, what do you expect to be paid? Well, how much can you afford? Because then there's the pride factor. That worked then, it still works a little bit now, but everything was predetermined now. I have my little scratch list itinerary. Yeah, we like to get $100 a guy. We usually play from 9 to 1, maybe a couple of beers, and the dinner tabs. I go, fuck your mama. Sorry, girl. No, it would be like, now it's, you know, I'll tell you what, you play 10 to 2, you know, and then they waver about 10 o'clock. And of course, you always start late. You're playing for some of the door, and you might get $200. There's nothing per guy. It was per band. It's per band now. We could have had 8 guys in a horn section, and they still were going to pay us the same.
You know, but I got 5 bands. I mean, there's 5 different projects just to make a living.
What are the 5 projects?
Buddy Cash Band, LeCompte, Retreads, Cindy Raymond Band, and the Cash Cows with Greg Davis and Mark Teague and Richie DiCarlo and me. So that's 5 different projects. Plus the duos. I do me and Mike duo and me and Rob duo. So if you want to look at it that way, that's 7 different projects.
Different avenues of revenue.
7, right. And that's the only way that I can have a house. Is that those 7 avenues of revenue and getting up every morning and driving down each one of them until they're tired of looking at me and give me a job. It's like throwing a bunch of shit against the wall. Something's got to stick.
I think that music is completely magical, and I love participating in any level of it, even if it is incredibly difficult and you have to make many more sacrifices than anyone sort of realizes or can possibly give you credit for. This month, recording background vocals on somebody's record, I helped someone write a song who was about to leave for tour in Europe. I sung background vocals on someone's who is on tour, and I was on stage with them singing background vocals. I did music for a play 2 days ago, and then I did a private party in a rock and roll band. And then 2 weeks ago I got to sing, or rather perform with my own band, original music, just me. So how many different? I don't have enough time to count is the answer to that. My favorite covers to do are kind of obscure ones that I feel like people either wouldn't hear at all or they would never hear it the way that I do it, especially male songwriters. I like to cover them and put a very feminine spin to it. Leonard Cohen is my personal favorite. And whatever the situation calls for, if I have to sing Walking on Sunshine, I'll do it. Or what did we do the other night? It was a Van Morrison song, Moon Dance. So
that could be a really great experience if the crowd is if you're exchanging that energy with people. That could be one of the highest points in your life. The worst thing about it is what I was talking about earlier, is that you play places and you're just there. People just don't care. And there you go again. I don't want, do you want to sound like an egomaniac because you're like, people don't care about my music. I'm up here playing covers at a bar. I got hired. I'm paying $150 or $200 to play a solo acoustic gig, and there's points when people aren't even listening to you. And then the funny thing is, they clap. One person will clap at the end of a song, then the whole bar will clap. That's always funny. But there are times though when the planets line up and the stars are aligned and everything's cool, and you play those cover gigs and people are drinking it into it, But they're not always like that. It's not like a consistent sold out Madison Square Garden thing. I should have made that deal with the devil, like Bob Dylan.
The hardest part of this right now, I think. Is the long road trips for a short amount of playing time. We actually did a gig with a wonderful singer named Deb Callahan that we play with, and what comes to mind is we drove to West Virginia, and that's a long drive. And when you're driving there, you're like, oh, this sucks, and when you're driving back, you're like, oh, this sucks. But it was an incredibly well-run festival with incredible musicians, incredible backline, and incredible production staff. They made you feel really welcome. They made you feel like you were worth something. And so, in hindsight, you look at the schedule and you're like, oh my God, we're going to drive to West Virginia and play for 45 minutes. But those kind of gigs, they're worth it. But at the same time, the road can be grueling, especially on long stretches when by the time you get to the gig, you don't want to do the gig because you're exhausted from being in the van for 13 hours. That's tough. And all bands go through that. I'm not bitching about it. But it's just a reality of the road, and, it can be taxing at times.
With 4 and 5 gigs in a row, as a drummer, it gets to me because I can't leave my drums in my vehicle. I have to carry them in the house. I can't leave them overnight. Obviously somebody, can see them and break the window. It won't cost them a thing. Take my drums. But sometimes getting home at 2 and 3 in the morning, and then you have to lug a bass drum, hardware bag, cymbals. Sometimes I can't get a parking spot in front of my house. So I have to park around the corner or down the street and carry all the stuff. You know, that can get to you after a while.
It can be very off-putting, the way that you're treated as a musician. Some people who are paying you want to treat you like you're their servant. They want to treat you like you're a second-class citizen because you're there to entertain them. And I don't feel as bad about it because I think about Mozart. You know, Mozart had to have patrons of the arts, and he had to take orders from all sorts of people, and he was, you know, the best. So here I am, you know, this like, oh, I'm gonna play guitar for you. How can I possibly complain about that? But I do.
Some days, I mean, with me, I don't know about you guys, but I'm sure you do. Some days you walk around, you're like, what did I do? It's like, what, you know, you're just like, how did I end up here? Where did it, you know, because it's the sort of the result of choices that were made a long time ago. You know what I mean? When you decide, well, what do you want to do? I want to be a musician. You know, I want to be in a rock and roll band. You know what I mean? I want to be a rock and roll star. You know, and then you keep playing, you keep getting better, and then you wake up and then it's 20 years later. You know what I mean? And it's like, some days, yeah, you get into, like, at least I do, you get into a little anxiety, like, what did I do? Especially, you know, you see your friends, like, you know, it's hard sometimes seeing your friends with, like, you know, your car, that big house, you know what I mean? And you don't have that.
So it's like basically I'm 55 years old and I'm relegated to like trying to fill up a 7-day week, as many gigs as I can, and to push myself as much as I can when most people are retiring. Or not retiring, but they're winding down. If you're a professional and you've been a professional for 42 years, then your career's winding down. You're in the fucking Bahamas. While I'm at Tom and Jerry's next to the meat that looks like somebody's ass.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, like, what the fuck?
What do you want your legacy to be then?
Dad, husband, rescued animals, Native American. That's what I want. And if you notice, none of that has anything to do with music.
Giving up? No. That's a terrible way to put it. You know, no, I'll never give up.
You know, when somebody, the thing is, I tell people, well, I mean, I've said this, when somebody comes up to you and pinpoints something musically that you did, it could only be one person that night or one person that week. When somebody comes up to you, well, I like to, you know, I like, you know, da-da-da. That's when you know, it's not the masses, it's just, you get validated by like maybe one guy in the crowd that knows exactly what you were trying to do or didn't do, or, you know, oh, you got a good tone, or you got this, or, you know, that's when, you know, you go, there you go. Because, I mean, I do it the same to other musicians. I go, man, what, you know, what's going on? When they know what you're doing, then that's because the masses are kind of just there, you know, just there to be hanging out.
If we go back to what makes covering a song good. A good song is like a painting or a poem. It should last forever. You shouldn't razz a guy for singing Brown Eyed Girl. I shouldn't bust somebody's balls for singing Margarita. It's a gift. If you write a song that millions of people love, by God, that is your gift to the fucking cosmos. And if you can, in any realm, you know, even if your G string is sharp and you're butchering it and you've had too many margaritas at the wedding reception and you're in the band, you're still making a statement. You're still there. You take somebody else's stuff. That's a powerful thing. That's a powerful thing.
You know, I'm just going to keep playing. I mean, hopefully, you know, just try to maintain, you know, being health-wise, being able to just keep doing it. I mean, you know, there's guys. I mean, you know, I met some guys in Louisville the other day. Down Eastern Shore, Maryland. It's got 50 miles. You know, I mean, there's not, this generation, there's not that many people, even the big rock stars, I mean, they're going to be carrying people off stage. Nobody's going to stop. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter whether you're there or, I mean, there's not that many people that are going to, because, you know, again, consider the alternative. I mean, how many people are going to go work, you know, Walmart or something? They're not going to do it. They'd rather play some small club and they'll figure out how to live. But, you know, once you got the music thing going, I think it's, you know, it's like it's only a small percentage of people that say that's it for me.
This was captured off a German at the Battle of the Bulge during World War II in the middle of winter. Guy took it off a dead German and brought it home and ended up in my room. This is like, because, like whatever job that somebody has, they get away from it for listening to music. I don't want to listen to fucking music. I had it with the music, man. Come in here and look at dead men's clothes and shit.